Hi everyone, thanks very much for clicking on this video. I apologize in advance if it's not a very good video. It's one take, it's relatively quick. Just wanted to perhaps give you some ideas as to how you can maybe improve your QuickJacks. So I just picked these up, and these are the brand new QuickJacks. It's the latest version, which is the 8000 TLX. These are longer, a little bit taller, and they'll lift 8,000 pounds, and they are very strong. But along with that strength comes thicker, apparently a lot heavier tubing when they assemble these to compensate and make up for that, or safely hold that amount of weight. And they are heavy. They are very, very heavy. I'm guessing around 100 pounds, 100, maybe a little over each. When you put them on the ground to slide them underneath your car, they scratch themselves up, they scratch your driveway, they really kind of tear themselves apart, and I wasn't too happy with that. And there's a lot of videos online of people like you and I that added wheels to them. So what I thought I would post is my version of how I did this, with my explanations as to why I did it the way I did, little changes I made from everyone else's, and just to kind of toss an idea at you. So as I said before, these are the 8,000 pound lift. So again, very, very heavy. And what I used for these are 1.5 inch ball bearing casters. So we have 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and these do have ball bearings, so they roll very, very well. And they are slightly moved out of the side so that the ball bearing can turn and rotate fully without any issues at all, or locking up or hitting anything. Now, the piece of metal that I cut and ground is approximately 6 inches. So that 6 inches, when you put the holes in here, moves the wheels from axle to axle about 4 inches out. And you can see here that it raises them just about 1/2 inch, which is really all you need in most cases. So the fronts are the same. Now, how I attached these pieces on here is a little bit different from the others I've seen online. Most people are using a 7/16 all thread, which to me seemed a little bit on the thin side. So I went to 1/2 inch. Now, to secure it and center the all thread in these tubes, instead of just using washers like a lot of people have done, I used an oiled bronze bushing. And there's actually 2 bushings in here. So right here, there's 2 bushings, 2 bushings. So there's 8 bushings in each QuickJack. If I had a lathe, I could have turned some custom pieces, but I didn't. So I just went to McMaster Car and ordered them. They were here the next day, and they work really well. The bushings I purchased were, again, the oiled bronze bushing. There are 2 bushings. One is 1/2 inch to 3/4, and that's inside, and it's got cement inside to hold it within the larger bushing so it won't move. And since there's really no stress on these as far as like rotating goes, I think that'll be fine. And then the bushing on the outside, of course, is the 3/4 to 1 inch. And 1 inch seems to fit in these tubes really well. So you have 4 bushings on the front and 4 bushings in the back. Again, 1/2 inch to 3/4, and then 3/4 to 1 inch. 1/2 inch all thread. They're tied in with a standard 1/2 inch, it's a 1/2 inch 13 nut on this side with a cotter key so it won't move. And over here, I put castle nuts, so there is a degree of adjustability. which means that if the axle stretches or moves a little bit, you can certainly tighten them up, or if you need to, for some reason, loosen them. It's very simple, just to remove this cotter key and you're good to go. On the back of this, you'll notice that all the QuickJacks have wheels. These little tiny wheels are great. They work fine. I didn't like them because they don't roll too terribly well. And I've seen a lot of people with QuickJacks who shattered these or they broke. So I didn't want to mess with that. So what I installed in the back are 3-inch ball bearing urethane casters. These are very highly weight rated. They're extremely strong. They're on 10mm stainless steel axles, and they're secured by a little shorter piece of material. Again, it's all ground to fit for a 1/2 inch. This is actually a stainless steel axle. These are 5/16 nuts and bolts in stainless. And I guess I should mention that when you install the bushings, and then again, these have the 1/2 inch to 3/4 and then 3/4 to 1 inch bushings. When you install the bushings on the end of the tubes, you have a gap. And the gap varies upon how you place the bushings. So because this carries a lot of weight, I just coupled the bushings inside. I didn't want to risk an inner bushing coming loose because, again, when you store this, they'll be resting on these wheels as well as being secured at the top. I wanted to make sure they were extremely strong. So I put in a custom fit a piece of HDMP in between. So I just took the measurement, cut the HDMP in there and fit in. It works really well. The material won't move. It's extremely strong. And then you'll see each of these wheels also to compensate for the spacer and the gap, because there is a gap right here where this tube extends out from the QuickJack. And you have to secure this somehow. I've seen a lot of guys that they just have a piece of metal sitting here and it's bolted down, and again, it seems a little bit janky to me. So I wanted to make sure these were not going to splay out away from the QuickJack. So this allows it to fit very tight, very snug. The aluminum plates on the top they're very simple. I'm not a good welder, I know that, but they work. And the only purpose of these aluminum plates is to keep this tight against the QuickJack. So all corners have these aluminum plates, and you'll notice that the aluminum plates on the front of the QuickJack are longer, they're extended. The reason I did that is because you have this part of the inner QuickJack that you have to get by. You can't have anything hitting it or rubbing it. So for me at least, I just thought it would be better to move this plate and mount it here. So it's a little bit longer. There's 2 5/16 stainless steel bolts tying it into here. And this plate is very thick, but this plate does not offer a tremendous amount of structural integrity to the QuickJack. It does offer some, but not a lot. I did not want to drill or alter any of the tubes of the QuickJack. So as far as the frame of this QuickJack, all the moving parts, there are no holes, nothing has been drilled, nothing has been tapped. For liability reasons, I wanted to keep everything as bone stock as possible. I did not want to alter them. This setup allows precisely that. And so far, it's working quite well. You can see that you can move these with one finger. They're virtually just effortless to move. And when you pick up the front, these wheels, if you notice, they're about 3/8 of an inch off the ground. So they don't hit anything. They allow you to get the QuickJack up and rolling faster than having to tilt it up at such an angle that these little wheels, then hit the pavement. So this just makes it easier. The only problem in doing this is that when you lift this, these will continue straight because they're mounted to this bar. And this bar is not screwed in or attached to this. This is simply a bar that consists of 3 initial pieces. I just TIG welded it together. They fit kind of more or less perfectly over this, and then this piece slides in. So this piece slides in, and this, you can see where this edge, this mounting flange, was welded onto this inner piece. So there's 2 flanges welded to this inner bracket, and then this comes on the outside, clamps down, secures it tightly, and then this plate prevents it from moving or sliding off. Again, it's very secure. We have a castle nut on this side and a standard 1/2 inch 13 nut over here. Everything, again, is cotter keyed. Now let's go ahead and raise it up. Once it gets up a little higher, I'll show you what I mean about these rear wheels. Okay, there it goes, starting to click down. There's nothing on it, so I don't want to raise it all the way because it's hard to get them down unless there's a lot of weight on it. So underneath this set of wheels, these are just again about 3/16 steel on each plate. There's a brace welded here. They are welded to a plate that comes across here underneath. So this part is welded to this bracket. It's all just one big chunk, one big piece, except for this piece. This piece slides out. Again, 10 millimeter axles, stainless steel so they won't rust. These axle clamps are very strong. I've never had one slide or move. The bearings work real well on both of them. And it's easy enough to remove if you don't like the setup. The thing that you have to watch on these is that when you bring them up, these can rise above this bar. On most cars, probably wouldn't be an issue, but you're going to need to check it to see how your vehicle or the vehicles you use clear this area. If the car sits in the center, this part will be probably outside of it. This will be on the inside. But then when you add your lifting block, you can see that the lifting block will generally put you above these wheels depending upon how high you raise this. So you'll need to check the distance on yours to see how the clearance is. Now you can always use smaller wheels if you need to. You don't need to use this large. I'm only using this basically for a Toyota Prius, but it's the V model, the longer, like bigger station wagon. So this fits that car real well because the car is actually pretty long. Underneath here, you can see that we have a tab that's welded to this large bracket. And the weld inside of here is pretty heavy. I'm not a great welder, I'm sorry. I know it doesn't look very good because I kind of ground them off a little bit and then painted them. So the weight of the jacks essentially rests on this tab. If I had it to do over, I maybe would have extended it and then put a hook right here and made it come up. Put like a 90 right there. But I wanted to keep things strong, but also simple and also lightweight. So I didn't do that. Here you can see the piece of HDMP, and it's really strong. And on the inside you can see where the aluminum bracket cinches down real tight, and again, there's no movement whatsoever. The brackets are a little bit of fabrication work. It's actually a really fun project. It probably took a couple of days, just taking my time to make everything fit. But so far, it seems to all work really well. It greatly enhances the QuickJack. And it kind of gets you away from utilizing the kind of like ball bearing type wheels that slide underneath, and then I've seen guys actually zip tie them on, which is fine if that works for you. For me, it kind of makes me nervous. I just didn't like that. And the two-sided tape, again, that's fine. I just didn't like it. And there is a guy online that's selling something similar to this, but I think it's actually 3D printed plastic, but the design is great. It's a really good design. You put a lot of thought and a lot of work into it. I didn't want to put plastic on here because I didn't trust it with this heavier 8,000-pound jack. It does really weigh a lot. So that's essentially it. Again, very straightforward. I know it's not pretty, but it is very strong. And here's the other jack here. Again, same exact setup, HDMP bracket, secure plate to aluminum, aluminum onto the center front plate. It does tie everything in really tight. Here we have your castle nut. I put the castle nuts on the outside, so if they needed to be adjusted, it would be real quick and easy, and equally quick to remove. Nothing needs to be done up here. Everything is very straightforward. So the majority of the work is on the back of it. And here you can see the other side. Again, castle nut, bracket, plenty of room. When you make your brackets, if you decide to do this, make sure that you make the bracket stick out enough. You have enough width on it that when this wheel turns, it will not hit. So you want to give the wheel enough room. Also, watch your clearances right here. There's a real issue with this clearance. You'll need to put the head of the bolt on this hot, pointing upwards. I found that the nylon lock nuts, if I put here, would actually hit this wheel, which would kind of defeat the purpose. So here again, you can see the tabs on the bottom, and they're welded on both sides. So this tab alone, if you look at all four corners and if you look at the weight of this, it only has to support probably, realistically, like 28 pounds, which is not that much for this heavy of steel and all the welds. But again, if I had to do it over again, I would probably have made this a little longer and then put a hook on it here. But I didn't, so maybe I'll change it in the future. This is the first set of QuickJacks I've ever altered, so I wanted to make it somewhat simple and yet, you know, reasonably strong without getting too carried away. Here we can see the other side of the mount. Again, here you can see the bronze bushings. So overall, that is just about it. It takes a while for these to lower. I don't want to waste your time, so I'll just call it quits right here. Anyways, I hope this helped you. I hope this gave you some ideas. Once again, I apologize for such a terrible video, but I think the concept is reasonably solid. And, you know, again, maybe it's something you can throw together on a weekend, because the odds are you're probably a lot better welder and a lot better fabricator than I am. Anyways, take care. Have a great week.